Can you tell us a bit about the coalition he put together and how he was able to do that? What the role of the Massachusetts High Tech Council was? Who the other major?
Well, there were any number. That's why I mentioned I jumped to Jack Rennie, but talked about the atmosphere in the state at the time among all the leaders. You're absolutely right. It was the business community, the High Tech Council, many education groups. People understood that we needed to make a change. So you're right. It was he was the catalyst, but there was all of the groups really were ready. Advocacy groups were ready for change.
Now, why do you suppose that is? I mean, if we've got a situation, I think most people would agree, in which most people think that their schools are pretty good. Was Massachusetts different? What made Massachusetts ready?
Well, of course, there was a lawsuit, but we'll leave that aside.
That helped.
that really did drive the money. But I actually think it was probably a nation at risk, quite frankly, that began. And that was a splash of cold water in a lot of people's faces because they thought everything was fine. And then, and education has always been, public education has always been important in Massachusetts as it is in Maryland, and people pay attention. And so that was the beginning. And then other states, of course, led, like Kentucky with its Kira. And it took that kind of time. There were bits and pieces of educational reform for about a decade, where legislature would pass this or pass that, and then they wouldn't fund it. There was a lot of frustration. So there was a building of both a frustration, but also a recognition that there had to be some fundamental changes. Some of the statistics you showed weren't quite as dramatic then, but they were dramatic enough.